All right, hey writers, today I am sharing my guaranteed 3-step solution to defeat procrastination and finish your book. If you've ever wanted to write a book but gotten stuck at some point in the process because of procrastination, this video is actually going to help you get unstuck and finish your book. Let's get started. In my last 2 videos, I've talked about how hard it is to write a book, how it took me years to learn to write a book, and how I struggled and failed every step along the way. And after sharing that video, I heard from hundreds of writers who have experienced the same failures. So if you haven't watched that video, please press pause, go watch it. It's right there, I think, or there, somewhere, maybe there. And I'll also put the link in the description. And then after that, we looked at all of the things that writers do wrong to try to finish their books. And there's a lot of them. People try these things all the time. And rather than helping you, they actually can take you further from your goal. Things like trying to apply more willpower, like taking writing classes, like going on writing retreats, like doing gimmicky things like morning pages, or just general good old-fashioned procrastination. In that video, I said the reason that you're not finishing your book is not because you're not a good writer or because you don't have enough discipline. It's because of a failure of process. If you have the right process, you'd succeed. You'd finish your book. You'd accomplish your writing goals. So today, let's start by just imagining with me for a second, 4 or 5 months from now, you're holding a finished manuscript of your book in your hands. Imagine feeling the weight of it, the months of diligent hard work that went into creating that, the weight of all those pages, all that ink. Imagine flipping through it, even smelling the paper. How amazing would that feel to know that you created this thing, this book? Wouldn't that be worth all of the effort it took to get to that point? So I want you to experience that feeling. And today I want to help you overcome what is, I think, by far the biggest obstacle that I've heard from writers, and that's procrastination. Procrastination is tough, right? And personally, I know how it feels. You want to write, you know you should be writing, but you just can't manage to do it. And what ends up happening for so many of us is that you get an idea for a book and you're so excited about it. You know that it's going to be a huge hit if only you can finish it. But then every time you sit down to write, you get stuck. Maybe you pound out a couple of pages or even several thousand words, maybe even start to develop a little bit of the habit. But then a few days go by and you haven't written anything. And you think, it's fine. I'm sure I'll write eventually when the inspiration comes and I'm feeling more excited about it. But then you don't feel more excited about it. In fact, you start to get a growing feeling of dread every time you think about your book. And all of that initial feelings of enthusiasm you had at the beginning starts to disappear. And worse, you start to get these fears that sound kind of like this. Maybe I'm not a very good writer. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I don't have what it takes to write this book. And maybe you're a little bit more optimistic than that. Maybe it sounds more like this. Oh, I know I'll finish my book someday when I have more time, when things are less crazy, when my kids are a little older, or when I'm retired, when I'm done with school, or when work is less stressful. It's always something, right? Some later date. And so you just put it off again and again until it's been months or even years and you still haven't finished your book. And that's why I want to talk about procrastination, because procrastination is one of the biggest reasons people never finish their books. First, though, what is procrastination and why does it affect us so much? Procrastination is all about this internal belief that now isn't the right time and that later will be better. You believe that you're not ready, that you don't feel able right now, maybe that you're not in the right mood, or that you don't have the right skills yet. There are a lot of versions of this belief. And if you want to overcome procrastination, you have to change that belief. You have to say, I may not feel ready, but I am. I may not want to do this hard thing, but I'm going to get started. I may not believe I can, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because the reality is that it's never going to feel like the right time to write your book. You will never feel like you're ready. You will never feel good enough or skilled enough. And that's because your feelings are lying to you. They're afraid. They're trying to protect you from taking a risk, from making a fool of yourself, from trying something out that might not work. And so they say, oh, it's okay. You have plenty of time. Just do it later. It's fine. And with all due respect to you and your feelings, I want you to say to them, thank you for your feedback, but I am in charge, not you. Now, please be quiet and let me handle this. Go ahead and try that out. Press pause, have a DTR, define the relationship talk with your feelings. And how was that? Kind of empowering, right? Now that you've done that, there's a very simple, very effective 3-step method that I want to teach you to overcome procrastination. We're going to do it together right now. And then by the end of it, you're going to have made a huge amount of progress toward your goal to a finished book. Ready? So here's part 1. I want you to set a deadline for when you're going to finish your book. Choose the date that you're going to write the end on this draft. Now, why does this help defeat procrastination? Because when you set a deadline, it's kind of like saying, ready or not, here I come. I may not feel ready, but by this date, I'm going to have something to show for myself. Now, to keep you from making excuses, I'm going to make it really easy for you. I'm going to even give you some dates. If you have an idea for a book, but you haven't started yet, then your deadline to finish the draft of your book is in 140 days. That's 40 days to create a plan and then 100 days to write your book. For the purposes of this video, that's September 6th, give or take a few days. Okay? September 6th is your day to finish your book. Now, if you don't have an idea yet, but you still want to write a book, then your deadline is still September 6th. Again, that's 100 days plus 40 to plan out your book. And yes, I promise that's more than enough time to find your idea and create a plan. Now, let's say you've already got a solid start on your book. Maybe you're even almost finished with a draft. Then your deadline is 40 days from today, which is enough time to finish your draft. For the purposes of this video, that's May 30th, plus or minus a few days. And you might be wondering why those time frames. I like 100 days plus a few weeks to plan out your book because you want your deadline to be on the shorter side. It needs to feel like not quite enough time so you can stay focused. A little bit of stress is actually good for your writing because it causes you to focus. It allows you to say no, not right now, to all the other things that you would otherwise say yes to that kind of get in the way of your writing. At the same time, of course, you want to avoid too much stress. So don't make your deadline too short. 100 days is kind of a nice happy medium, short enough to stay focused, long enough to not go crazy. By the way, here's a simple calculator I use to add those days and find my deadline. All right, so you can see here the start date you can put today, and then it already has 140 days there. Feel free to change that. You can add more days, you can subtract days, just whatever you think you need. And then when you hit calculate, it will give you the date for when your final deadline is. So for this, it's Monday, September 5th, 2022. That will change based on when you are going to finish your book by. Now, I'll put a link to that in the description. Step 2 in our 3-step process to defeat procrastination and finish your book is to calculate how much writing you'll have to do each week. Now, this requires a little bit of math, but don't worry. If you're not a math person, I'll walk you through it. So remember in our last video how you made an estimate of how long your book is going to be. And if you didn't do that exercise, go back to the last video and do it. I'll put the link to it in the description. It might be right there or there. This is where that estimate comes in handy because now you need to figure out your weekly milestones, how many words you'll need to write every week to hit your goal. And this is so important because you can't cram your way to a deadline. You have to make measured, steady progress toward your goal, which means that you need to break your big deadline into smaller, manageable deadlines. So let's say you're going to write an 80,000 word novel and your deadline is in 100 days. That's 14 and a half weeks. So take 80,000 and divide by 14 and a half, which equals about 5,500 words or a little bit more than 1,000 words a day. Now you've broken your huge problem, finishing the book, into a series of much smaller solutions, and you're already making a lot of progress toward actually achieving your goal. The next step I want you to take is the most important. I want you to add all of these dates to your calendar. Put the deadline on your calendar and then put the weekly milestones on the calendar. Even better, on your weekly milestones, you can write how many words you need to write by that week. So for our previous example of an 80,000 word book that you're writing in 100 days, every Friday, you would write 5,500 words on your weekly deadline calendar entry. Make sense? All right, to review, here's the process to beat procrastination. Step 1, choose the deadline date that you're going to finish your book. You'll need at least a few weeks of planning, then about 100 days for the writing process. Step 2, choose weekly deadlines to break up the process into smaller milestones. So for example, 5,500 words per week if you're writing a novel in 100 days. Step 3, put all of those dates on your calendar. That's the most important part. Now hit pause and go do this. Seriously, you might not feel ready to do this. Now might not feel like the right time, but it's never going to feel like the right time. I want you to take a leap of faith, put these dates on your calendar and start making real progress toward achieving your goal of finishing your book. And if you're confused or you get stuck on any parts of this, hit reply, leave a comment, and we'll help you get unstuck, okay? Now, this is how to overcome procrastination, but there are still a lot of problems to actually finish writing a book. Things like how to make sure you actually meet those deadlines, or how to handle writer's block, or what to do when you run out of ideas, or how to make sure your book is actually good. Coming up, I'm going to be sharing more about how to overcome those issues, both here, but especially over at the Right Practice community. So if you're not signed up for that, head over to the Right Practice and subscribe to our email list. You'll be glad you did. I'll put the link for that in the description. That's it for me today, but how does it feel to have a solid date on your calendar to finish your book? Maybe it feels a little exciting, maybe a little stressful. Let me know in the comments. And again, be on the lookout for more of our guaranteed solution to finishing your book coming soon.